What's up, tribe? Thank you for being here and welcome to my channel. Today's post is titled Pillars, and as it is a dialogue between Matias and his higher self, I'd be referring to Matias as me and to his higher self as I am. I am everything that has hurt you, traumatized you in your life, is what your conscious recognizes as bad. As I told you, bad in Greek, they say kakos, origin of the word poop. The fecal matter of life is what we leave for last. What we consider emotional or social deprivation, hidden at the bottom of the jar. Therefore, fecal comes from the Latin feex, feces, which is the residue that accumulates in the bottom of the wine. What our mind usually does with what is considered good and bad in our life is to discern, select, divide, and normally take out what does not work. And this is the origin of excrete, that is ex, remove outside, and seret, to discern. Discernment is a human way in which you manage to separate what works from what doesn't. But you have moralized him to the point of completely separating him. As we said, everything exerted from the body is a product not assimilated by the body. Now imagine the evil of the world. It does not appear simply because there is evil in it. In its nature, it arises because these people have not been assimilated. They have not given the best of themselves when it was due, and they have closed and traumatized by the pressure of the environment that turned them into excrement. That is, it made the rest of society in their discernment classify them as poop. It means that those people need to be reintegrated into society through forgiveness. I am, yes, but for this they must become useful. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is understanding, perfecting, freeing from judgment by educating in something new and transcendental. In the same way as a trauma, we must understand the logic, the origin, and why. And this will lead us to understand what we have achieved thanks to it. As we said yesterday, the injury from the first fall on a bicycle reminds you that today you know how to ride a bicycle. Today is just a reminder of what you have accomplished, of trial and error. In life, nothing is divided. The bad is there as fertilizer for the good. Most of the time, we do not realize that we have to change until a crisis, a negative event, something bad or even horrible happens. It is only in this situation that the advances in history have occurred. But in that case, is it really necessary for bad things to happen? I am. It is if you live from the subconscious and the unconscious. The unconscious sees the fire and touches it until it is burned. It does not recognize what the fire can do. The conscious observes and analyzes the fire and brings up a stick or a paper to see the reaction without the need to burn, and discovers its power in the same way. Do humans make prisons for fire for having burned a forest or a house? I do not. I am. Because fire is not aware of what it does, just like people who do evil. Someone who does evil is not conscious. he's unconscious because he does not understand his true power and uses it according to his needs. But if that person, like fire, is controlled, in the sense of educating him to use his inner fire to give him a purpose, to put a focus on him instead of locking him up with punishment, he will not explode, but he will heat food, forge tools, and many other things. We have to re-educate, that is, to get the best out of each human, to make them compost, not excrement. I am. The only way is through forgiveness. Let go of the prejudice. Recognize the compost and fertilizer in those people or situations that cause harm. They often say the evil is premeditated and that someone that does harm is aware of it, without understanding the true weight of the conscious word. Consciousness comes from the Latin cum and scientia, which mean with and knowledge. In this case, consciousness, in noun form, means to have knowledge of the environment. But when you say consciousness, with S in the middle, we mean having knowledge of oneself beyond the environment. That is, having wisdom. A person then can be conscious of her environment or conscious of herself in said environment. They are the pillars of being, knowledge and wisdom. In other words, a person who does evil is the one who does not know the truth of his environment and of himself, acting out of an emotional reaction. No one who is conscious would harm the life of another living being. Rather, it would become useful to life in general. It could be said that we must help people to change, to be aware of this. Not only people, but also situations. When you fell and hurt yourself learning to ride a bike, no one was to blame, it just happened. However, that simple fact can be considered a trauma, one that has given you the tools to know how to ride a bicycle. When someone hit you and it hurt a lot, it is considered a trauma, one of which, in awareness of said knowledge, must discern how you will assimilate it, acting from forgiveness to stop the repetitive cycle, or reacting from revenge and maintaining the cycle rotating. Change can occur in two ways here. We can force the other to change from our immutable vision, or change ourselves to cause change in the other. In the first case, the most likely thing is that you generate a quick and negative reaction. That is to say that the two pillars must be supported by me, not imposed on the other. All change is external, and all transformation is internal. The change generate crises, traumas, reactions. Transformations are your own and self-managed choices through taking action. The first is useful in periods of unconsciousness. The second is useful in period of consciousness. Normally, human lives move in environments of unconsciousness, dominated by the family, the group, the culture, the society, the species. There are many conditions that do not allow you to think clearly from your I am. The constant projection in the we are makes them be carried by a marine current from one side to another, without being able to control their own walk. You have no power. from your own pillars. Me, how do I start to take hold of my own pillars of consciousness? I am. The first, recognize all the changes that have forced you to transformation. List them. Tell me, what were the changes in your life that drove you into a crisis of an inevitable change? Me, I made my list. The first big thing that forced my whole world to change was when I was 12 years old, when I began to remember. Everything in me changed by force, by something that I could not control. There was the move to Spain at the age of 14, something that completely changed my life and that did not depend on me. At the age of 20 or 21, leaving the university, something that I refused for a long time and was forced to leave. The next big inevitable change was due to the 11/11 encounter, since I was practically forced to do it, as well as the Harwitton path that came later due to this encounter. The big, strong, and painful change was the end of the Dragon Path, a painful year in my life that got out of hand. The next unexpected change was falling in love with Victor that led me to the void, as I have never experienced it before. This was followed by a sudden loss of part of my family and friends, something I did not see coming. And the last thing, the quarantine, which modified the entire Yosoy way just 3 months before starting. Jotting it all down in one paragraph is both distressing and liberating. I am, especially liberator, right? Me. Yes, because now that I look back at it, I discover that each one of those changes brought me greater stability, more firmness, more awareness of the world, more awareness of myself. I am, and nothing you did, you would have done had it not been for these changes. Now, why do you think you lived them? Me. Because in most of them, I was unconscious. In other words, what made me experience them as changes and not transformations was my resistance to them, my unawareness of what they meant. Don't blame yourself for not knowing, because life exists to learn. Consciousness will not eliminate uncertainty, anguish, or crisis. What consciousness will do is give it a purpose, a logic. It will help you go through it until you find the answer. Unconsciousness will plunge you further into unnecessary suffering for not seeing that everything always has a logic and a why. And that why is not planned before, is in the understanding of what has been learned. Looking back, you will see what has been achieved. All the traumas and crises, the great changes that have forced you to change in life are the foundations of your pillars today. Where are you standing? Standing today. The answer to this question can only be answered by analyzing what brought us here. So ask yourself the question. Me, I stand up, firm in my consciousness about what happened, to assimilate the consciousness of what I am today, thanks to it. I am. Honor your way. When you understand that great changes will make the bad that has happened to you a fertilizer for your future transformations. Me, I am a pillar of consciousness change. I am a pillar of conscious transformation.